Donald Trump issued more details about his economic plan, some of which I like very much, some of which I don't. No surprise there on his trade policies, which I'll get to in a minute. Hillary Clinton immediately jumped all over it. But basically what Trump said is, look, I'm going to cut the 7 federal income tax brackets down to 3. I'm going to eliminate the carried interest deduction. I'm going to limit business income taxes to 15%. The repatriation of corporate cash from overseas, over $1 trillion. It's taxed twice at the highest corporate income tax level in the world, 25%. He says, I'll tax it at 10%. So all those funds can return to the United States for investment and so forth rather than being held overseas. And I will eliminate the death tax. Well, the billionaires and millionaires, people that have small businesses and farms and so forth and so on, they will all benefit from that. These are excellent parts of his proposal. Excellent. He pledged to repeal Obamacare. Excellent. To ease restrictions on energy producers and cut regulations massively. Excellent. To reverse Obama's illegal, unilateral executive orders. That's excellent. Then he says he would let parents fully deduct child care costs from their taxes. I don't have a problem with that one way or another, quite frankly. What I don't believe he mentioned was that he's also talked about increasing the minimum wage as a federal mandate. He did that, you'll recall, last week to $10. Hillary Clinton wants $15. Hillary Clinton said she'll spend $275 billion on infrastructure. Trump said he'll spend $500 billion or more. More on that in a moment. So that's all crap as far as I'm concerned. And this trade stuff, which I'll get to a little later, the globalists, obviously that word has been tested with data mining companies, globalists, nationalists, all the rest of it. And it's a hot button. We're capitalists. We talk about Americanism. But in any event, Hillary Clinton is pounding away, because that's what she does. You would think she'd be pounding away at rocks, given her violations of the Espionage Act. Just her latest federal crimes that she's not been indicted for. But I want to engage this because we cannot allow the left to take over this issue. I also want to address some of the Trump plan. But first, Hillary Rotten Clinton in St. Petersburg, Florida. Let's see what she has to say. I know it's like waterboarding, but get ready. Cut 16, go.
They tried to make his old, tired ideas sound new. But here's what we all know, because we heard it again. His tax plans will give super big tax breaks to large corporations and the really wealthy.
Stop. This is why I hate this Marxist crap. She got rich from large corporations and foreign, businesses and companies and countries lining her pantsuit pockets and her husband's pockets. Just lining them, tens of millions of dollars. I think we're going to have Schweitzer on here at some point this week or next week. So it's okay for these people to get rich as hell. I don't have a problem with it, legitimate money making, but this is illegitimate. And then they stand there like they're defending the little guy against rich corporations and large corporations and the really, really wealthy. If we can bring over $1 trillion back into the country, ladies and gentlemen, if you get to keep the money, your children and grandchildren get to keep the money and assets that you earned throughout your life and paid taxes on, and in your will or through probate, you give it to your kids or your grandkids, is that really so awful? Oh, no, you're going to help the rich and the rich. I am tired of redistribution of wealth. I am tired of helping people who haven't earned it. I'm tired of subsidizing people who take out loans, whether they're mortgages or student loans, that they can't afford. I'm tired of paying for people who don't get off their ass and get an education or get off their ass and work. That's not America. There's class warfare crap and social engineering crap and iron-fisted government crap. It's going to destroy this country. She's going to destroy this country. They're going to destroy this country. As it is, I don't know if we can claw our way back. She talks about the same old tired ideas. Yeah, liberty. What a tired idea. And capitalism. Oh, it's so tiresome. And the private sector and wealth creation and profit and entrepreneurship. Oh, such tired ideas. Like taxing and spending and borrowing and bullying. Those aren't tired ideas. She wants to spend over another $1 trillion on top of what Obama's done. More entitlements. Incredible. And trust me, half the countries are, yes, I want more. Then go earn it. Anyway, go ahead.
Him and the guys who wrote the speech, right?
Oh, stop. Well, who the hell wrote your speech? Pathetic. Go ahead.
He wants to roll back regulations on Wall Street. He wants to eliminate...
Stop. These aren't regulations on Wall Street, ladies and gentlemen. They're regulations on community banks, on your ability to get a mortgage and a car loan. They are suffocating. They're suffocating these financial institutions. They want you all to think that there are these massive banks. Well, there are. But it's more than that. 80%, I would argue, of what banks do today is government-controlled, either directly or indirectly. Ask any bank manager. The forms they have to fill out, the information they have to report, on you. They're reporting on you. They're filling out forms on you. The government has a big database on you. Go ahead.
Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which has saved billions of dollars.
Oh, my Lord. It saved billions of dollars? That is a fascistic little enterprise created by Dodd-Frank. Two bozos who helped create the economic collapse, the real estate collapse, through the Community Reinvestment Act. The community saved us billions of dollars. No, it hasn't. It's a little fascist bureau that was passed by the Democrat Congress under Doofus as President of the United States a few months right after Obamacare was passed. They essentially have nationalized our financial industries, just like they nationalized our health care, all through the back door, all in the shadows, all under cover of dark. Go ahead.
For Americans, he wants to basically just repackage trickle-down economics.
Oh, trickle-down economics. That's what they pulled on Reagan. They called it trickle-down economics. Now I thought this is an opportunity to remind you about trickle-down economics. They used to call it Reaganomics. They used to call it Reaganomics. Everybody, turn up the volume. Call your neighbors. Call your family. Call your doctor. I want to tell you about trickle-down Reaganomics. And then I will tell you about spit up on your shoes Obamanomics, which is basically what Hillary Rotten Clinton is promoting. Here's the economy before Ronald Reagan, under the Democrats. Under the Democrats. Reagan entered office in 1981. He actually faced an economy much worse than Obama faced in 2009. 3 worsening recessions starting in 1969 were about to culminate in the worst of all, 1981 to 82. Unemployment soaring into double digits at a peak of 10.8%. Roaring double-digit inflation at the same time, with the Consumer Product Index at 11.3% in 1979, 13.5% in 1980. That's 25% inflation increase in 2 years. Double-digit interest rates. People couldn't get loans for cars in their homes. The prime rate peaked at 21.5% in 1980. Like Zimbabwe. Like Venezuela. The poverty rate started increasing in 1978, eventually climbing to 33% from 11.4% to 15.2%. A fall in real median family income that began in 1978 snowballed to a decline of almost 10% by 1982. People don't remember. Oh, trickle-down economics. I'm not done. From 1968 to 1982, the Dow Jones Industrial lost 70% of its real value. An overall collapse of the stock market. So what did Reagan do? With trickle-down economics, with Reaganomics, with cutting taxes and cutting regulations and slashing the bureaucracy. What did he do? 20 million new jobs were created. Unemployment fell from almost 11% to 5.3% by 1989. The top income tax rate was cut from 70% to 28%. The Reagan recovery took off once the tax rate cuts were fully phased in. Total federal spending declined 21.2% of the GDP in 1989, even with the Reagan defense buildup, which I might add won the Cold War. He eliminated price controls on oil and natural gas. Production soared, and aided by a strong dollar, the price of oil declined by more than 50%. Real per capita disposable income increased by 18% between 82 and 1989, meaning the American standard of living increased by almost 20% in 7 years. The poverty rate declined every year from 1984 to 89, dropping by 1/6 from its peak. The stock market more than tripled, 1980 to 1990, the largest increase than in any previous decade. The Reagan recovery started in official records November 1982, lasted 92 months without a recession, until July 1990, when you know who, George H.W. Bush, increased taxes and killed it. During this 7-year recovery, the economy grew by almost one-third. By almost one-third. In 1984 alone, real economic growth boomed 6.8%, the highest in a half-century. The inflation from 1980 in the Carter era was reduced from 13.5% to 3.2% by 1983. The Reagan economy kicked off a historic 25-year boom with short recessions in 1990 and 2001. Bill Clinton takes credit. It was the Reagan trickle-down economics. The period from 1982 to 2007 is the greatest period of wealth creation in mankind's history. In 1980, the net worth assets minus liabilities of all U.S. households and businesses was $25 trillion in today's dollars. Now, this was written about 4 or 5 years ago, so it's actually much more. This is from Peter Ferrara's great piece at Forbes. Economic growth averaged 7.1% over the first 7 quarters. 7.1%. And we can't get it above 1.5% and 2%. Oh, yeah, trickle-down economics. The same old. Yes, same old. Magnificent economic growth. Unleashing the American economy. Creating jobs, creating businesses, creating wealth, increasing incomes, increasing savings, increasing productivity, new technologies, new services, new advances. We can't have that with the trickle-down economics, now can we? No, it's trickle-down. So trickle-down economics, Hillary brings up, which was a spectacular success. It's called capitalism. And the liberal Democrats hate it. They hate it because it massively grew the private sector, because it used capitalism and constitutionalism in ways that hadn't been seen in decade after decade after decade. It gave the big lie to the big lie that the only way to create opportunity and jobs and success is through government programs, government regulations, and so forth and so on. Now, what of the Obama-Clinton record? What of the Obama-Clinton record? In the L.A. Times, former Professor Brad Schiller. The current so-called recovery is the weakest on record. Gross domestic product growth has been below the long-term trend of 3.1% in all but 7 of the last 30 quarters. He says the statistical model of election outcomes predicts a Republican victory on that basis alone. Well, don't hold your breath. The Democrats are doing their utmost to distract attention from these facts. President Obama continues to brag that his policies rescued the economy from the brink of another Great Depression. As for Clinton, she vacillates between promising to jumpstart the economy and defending the Obama administration's record. Good point. Which is it, schizo? Which is it? Clinton surrogates tell us the economy is a whole lot better than when Obama took office, and even better than we think it is. To bolster their case, Obama and Clinton like to boast that 14 million jobs have been created since 2010. By the way, Mr. Producer, what year did Obama come into office? 2009. He cuts out an entire year. We're about to find out why. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, that claim is true. We do indeed have 14 million more people employed now than we did in 2010. But what happened to 2009, the first year of the Obama administration, when the Democrats held veto-proof majorities in both houses of Congress? Were Clinton and her surrogates to use 2009 as the base year, the net job growth would drop by 1 million. There'd be 13 million. Doesn't sound like Reagan's 20 to 25 million, does it? But he says there's a much larger issue here, though. Absolute numbers on job growth sound impressive, but they must be put into historical and relative perspective. There were 130 million people employed on average in 2010. A 14 million increase, therefore, represents a 10.76% expansion of the job base over a 6-year period. That's a paltry achievement. 10.76% expansion of job base over 6 years. Contrast Obama's record with Ronald Reagan's record, when the economy also had to recover from a deep recession. From 1982 to 88, a comparable 6-year period, he's not even including all the growth from the Reagan years, net job growth exceeded 15 million. The employment base in 1982 was only 91 million for a growth rate of 17.49%. So under Obama, 10.76%. Under Reagan, 17.49%. Hey, it's trickle-down economics. Yes, trickle-down economics. Had the Obama recovery been as successful as the Reagan recovery and his policy package, the net job growth over the last 6 years would have been nearly 23 million, not the 14 million Clinton considers so impressive. I hope Trump and the boys are paying attention. While Clinton tries to sell the notion that the Obama recovery was robust, she does concede that wages haven't risen nearly enough. The Liberal Economic Policy Institute estimates that the median hourly wage has increased only 5.7% since 1973. Whether Clinton realizes it or not, the stagnation she deplores is another indictment of Obama's growth policies. Wages tend to increase faster when the economy grows more vigorously. Clinton's proposed solution, among others, raise the minimum wage. But minimum wage laws affect only a small percentage of the workforce, and a significant jump in the minimum wage can also constrain job growth. In general, Democrats tend to view the wage structure and workers' position as rigid. For them, it's always a zero-sum game. And by the way, same with the Bernie Sanders, Trump, Hoover, protectionist tariff types. They view it as a zero-sum game, too, when it comes to trade. That a little later. He says, for them it's always a zero-sum game in which the top 1% get all the gains while the workers at the bottom languish. They don't understand that the composition of the top 1% changes every year. This year's wage champs aren't necessarily next year's champs. Likewise, a steady stream of immigrants. It goes on and on. Steady stream of immigrants, high school grads, others enter the labor market every year, usually at the lower rungs of the wage ladder. And it goes on, and it's an excellent piece. We will link to it, as we do after the show. So what does Hillary propose to do about all this? I've told you of the disastrous consequences of Obama's crap economy, the absolutely miraculous consequences of Reaganomics, and now Hillary. What does she propose? Well, our friends at the Americans for Tax Reform tell us. She proposes a massive, over $1 trillion increase in taxes. Income tax increase, $350 billion. A tax hike in the form of a 28% cap on itemized deductions. A massive business tax increase of $275 billion. A fairness tax increase of $400 billion, actually between $400 and $500 billion. Nobody's sure what that means. A massive increase in the inheritance tax. But there are even more Clinton tax hike proposals not included in this over $1 trillion in tax increases. She wants a capital gains tax increase. So in other words, people who invest, and many of you invest. Many of you have pensions that invest in the stock market. Okay, well, depending on when those things are rolled over, and depending on when stocks are purchased and sold, they have a capital gains factor built in. The capital gains rate is less than the ordinary income tax rate because you're rewarding people for investing in the American economy or investing, period. So she wants a massive capital gains tax increase with 6 different rates. She wants a tax on trading stock. So costs associated with this new tax will be borne by millions of you who have 401ks, IRAs, savings accounts, and so forth. She wants what she calls an exit tax. Rather than reduce the extremely high uncompetitive corporate tax rate, she's proposed a series of measures aimed at inversions, including an exit tax on income earned overseas. So she would raise taxes on funds overseas rather than the other way around. In other words, she has depression written all over her forehead. Oh, yes, she does. She is an unmitigated disaster when it comes to the economy, when it comes to herself through crony capitalism, money laundering, all these sorts of things. Yes, I did say it. Sorry, it's true. Well, she's good at that.